Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Meños Podcast, episode 6. So today's episode is going to be a little different. I'm going to focus really on 3 individuals and 3 gangster moments they had in their life where I was just like, damn, that's badass. So the first person, also, this is going to be a lot shorter podcast. I'm going to try and make it like 20, 25 minutes. Might be shorter than that, might be longer. We'll see how it goes. So, the first person I want to bring up is Julius Caesar and his run-in with pirates. I'll go into Julius Caesar another day, like give him his full episode, just because the guy is a fucking legend. There's a reason July is named after him, and August is named after his adopted son, Augustus. Yeah, they were really, really influential people in our world, which is why they deserve their own episodes. So this one in particular, though, the story I'm talking about, Julius Caesar, he was 25 years old when he got kidnapped by pirates, and he was traveling through the Aegean Sea. I believe he was learning at the time. He wasn't on any official business, but he was traveling through the Aegean Sea. So if you don't know where that is, it's kind of in between Turkey and Greece. Greece is just a shitload of islands, and Turkey and Greece are very close to each other. Those two countries hate each other, by the way. They have a very dark history amongst themselves. To this day, they don't like each other. One of my favorite podcasters, they have this podcast called History Hyenas. It's a Giannis Papa and Chrissy D. The guy Giannis is actually Greek, and he mentions often in the podcast that the Greeks and the Turkish people dislike each other a lot. So, back to the story though. So, Julius Caesar was 25 and he was traveling around that area. The area at the time was plagued by pirates. There was a lot of pirates in the Mediterranean Sea. Rome defeated Egypt earlier, and they had a strong naval presence in the area. So since there wasn't a strong naval presence in the Mediterranean, a bunch of pirates began to spring up. And these pirates were known as Cilician pirates just because that was the area of Turkey where their stronghold was. And yeah, so I'll get into it. So the story goes that the pirates end up kidnapping Julius Caesar. And they know he's Roman just by the way he speaks and how professional he looks. And plus, he didn't have facial hair. The Romans were the ones who made that popular, shaving their facial hair, because they wanted to distinguish themselves from the barbarians. Anyone else, basically. So back in those days, the Romans would shave to distinguish themselves from people who they saw as uncivilized, barbarians. They're like, wow, like, bro, go get a fucking razor. So, yeah, they could tell he was Roman. And the pirates, they done fucked up. They picked the wrong motherfucker to fucking kidnap. Like, out of all the people you could have kidnapped, you got this guy. Like, bro, you should have just gave him back. Because this guy holds a grudge. He's a fucking narcissist. He's evil. Well, some would argue he's evil. I think he's just fucked up in the head. But what I'm getting at is they had him in captivity, and they were speaking amongst themselves. Like, damn, well, how much should we ask for this motherfucker? And then they agreed on 20. And I like to imagine just Julius Caesar like, what? The fuck? Who do you think I am? Like, bro, I'm worth 50. This is actually, I'm paraphrasing, or I'm like giving my interpretation of like how I imagine it would go down. But Plutarch, the historian, noted that Julius Caesar laughed at them when they were thinking about asking for 20 talents of silver. So if you don't know, talent is the way they measured money. So 1 talent is 32,000 coins, silver coins. And they wanted 20 talents of silver for him. So basically, like, I did the math, it was like 640k silver coins. And yeah, Julius Caesar like laughed at them. He's like, "You dumbass motherfuckers! Like, do you know who the fuck I am? Like, you're really just asking for 20? He's like, nah, fuck that. Ask for 50. Like, ask for 50. You're gonna get it. And then the pirates were kind of amused. They're like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, you don't run into a captive every day and then they up the fucking ransom. They're like, nah, don't ever disrespect me like that, saying I'm only worth 20 talents. Ask for 50. And then sure enough, they're like, all right. Like, they're all right, Playboy. Like, we'll play ball. 50 it is. So then the pirates were surprised, like, when they actually reached some Romans, and they're like, oh yeah, we have a Gaius Julius Caesar as captive. They're like, what? You have who? And they're like, all right, yeah, 50's fine. So they were actually kind of shocked, like, oh shit, we're actually gonna get 50 talents for this guy. And Plutarch, the main guy who wrote about this, he mentions in his historical text that Julius Caesar, being the arrogant motherfucker that he is, he carried himself like he was the boss of the ship when he was the prisoner. Like, that's how narcissistic this guy was. Like, he had a huge ego. So it goes that he was prisoner and he would tell him to shut the fuck up when he's trying to sleep. Like, he would literally shush them. Like, I like to imagine them being all rowdy on the deck, you know, shooting dice or something, and then he's just sleeping, and then he walks up the fucking from under the deck with like a candle. Shut the fuck up, I'm trying to sleep. And then him just going back down. That's how I like to imagine it. Don't know how it would have actually went down, but apparently he would shush them. And not only that, the pirates did do some exercises. They would play games, and he would join them. He would be, I like to imagine him just like on a knee, just shooting dice. And then like, they're like, hey, this guy's all right, man, you know. And he would even make fun of them. That's like how confident and arrogant this guy was. Like, imagine being a fucking prisoner. And you being like, actually, this has onions. I don't like onions. I'm just giving the food back. Like, bro, imagine. Like, all right. Like, eat shit. Like, that's how I would imagine a regular person getting treated. But Julius Caesar is not a regular person. So he would play games with them. He would exercise with them. He carried himself like he was the commander, which is fucking narcissistic as fuck. But hey, it ended up working out for him. He even would practice his speeches and poems in front of them, and he would berate them. He'd basically call them idiots, like imbeciles, when they didn't react the way he wanted them to react. So let's say he's just here talking, like giving a speech, and they're just ignoring him. Kind of how like my students ignore me when I give a fire presentation. And then he's like, or like when I share my podcast on Instagram and like no one likes it, and I'm like, okay, I'm like, you imbeciles. That's basically how Julius Caesar would talk to the pirates. Like, he would be like, oh yeah, you guys are illiterate, that's why you guys didn't get this masterpiece. I think he was just coping, but it's really funny that he carried himself in that manner in front of the pirates. And the whole time he was captive, he kept telling them, I'm gonna crucify you guys. I hope you guys know that. Like, I'm gonna get free, and I'm gonna crucify you guys. And then they would just laugh it off, like, yeah, sure, buddy, sure, whatever you say, man. And then eventually, the money came, and they released him. And Julius Caesar, being a man of his word, he got some money together and raised a naval force. And he was hunting them down. And these fucking morons, they stayed in the same spot. Like, idiots. You got the money. Dip, you know? Move. You got the money. Leave so he doesn't come back and find you in the same place. Or at least make it harder for him. And sure enough, he was able to amass a naval force. And he got those pirates. And he did end up crucifying them. But I don't know. I guess he had a good time with them, or he's like, these guys weren't too bad. So before he crucified them, he slit their throats, just as a sign of goodwill. Like, hey, you guys were all right, man. You know, I like shooting dice with you guys. You guys were all right. You still gotta die, but I mean, like, at least you don't have to suffer. So he gave them that mercy, I guess. And yeah, I thought that was badass. Like, damn, this guy was literally a prisoner, wasn't phased, and kept telling them, like, I'm gonna crucify you guys. Like, I promise you. Like you guys are gonna get it one day. And yeah, he was a man of his fucking word. And I guess he is kind of nice though by not doing that to them while they were alive. But still, bad motherfucker, Julius Caesar. He is one of the GOATs in history. And I'm gonna do an episode on him in the future. I just don't know when. I have a lot of these part ones on my YouTube page, and I'm working on these part twos, but that's my ADHD brain. I start something, and then I'll start another one, and then eventually I'll get back to it, and then yeah, now we are here on episode 6 without part 2 for any of the other ones, but I'll get to it eventually. So yeah, that was the first gangster moment in history that I like to bring up. Second one, Teddy Roosevelt. So he was the president of the United States in the early 1900s. I want to say he was the 20-something president. Let's see, 26th president. Yeah, I knew he was 20-something, but I just don't know exact. I was gonna say 24, but he was the 26th. Yeah, Teddy, as some people called him. He was a badass, in my opinion. The dude is the only president to have a Medal of Honor. On top of that, he quit his job as a politician to go fight in a war. Literally having his own battalion of Rough Riders. So this was just a ragtag posse of people, like cowboys, fucking people who worked in factories, country people, some criminals. You know, he was just so he just wanted rough motherfuckers to help him fight the Spanish in the Spanish-American War, 1898. But back to Teddy Roosevelt. He was a gangster, in my opinion, and he was an advocate of living a strenuous life. He literally gave a speech in, I want to say, the 1890s about living a strenuous life. What that means is he hated lazy, fat people. He hated the sedentary lifestyle. Like, get up and get active. That's the only way to live life, is what Teddy Roosevelt would say. So he did a bunch of physical things: boxing, wrestling, tennis, hiking, hunting, horseback riding, you name it, swimming. He was just an active person. And if you look at him, he kind of looks fat in his pictures, if I'm being honest. But I guess he just has like that bulky build. I like to imagine him as like a DC, Daniel Cormier. He's a UFC fighter. If you see him, like, you'd be like, this guy's fat. And then you wouldn't think he was a Olympic wrestler and a 2-time UFC champion. So yeah, I like to imagine that's kind of how Teddy Roosevelt was. And another reason why I think he's a badass is he's the only president to run fades at the White House. Like, this guy was running the ones with people in the White House as president. Even as governor, when he was governor of New York, he would spar every day. And that's crazy considering fighters like Max Holloway don't even spar for their fights. So he just did it for the love of the game. He just loved throwing hands and fighting. So even to the point where this came out after the fact that he was president, but he lost vision in his left eye during his presidency because he was sparring one of his military aides, and then his military aide caught him with a clean punch to the left eye, and it blinded him. And that's crazy, because imagine that happening now. Like, they would try to impeach him or something along those lines. They'd be like, oh, this guy isn't capable of doing the job. But no, not TR. Did not happen. Also, it wasn't just boxing that he really liked. He enjoyed wrestling, and he saw those as the Western martial arts. And he traveled to Japan. And actually, I think the Japanese guy traveled to the White House. But the point is, he did jiu-jitsu too. And not Brazilian jiu-jitsu. The actual jiu-jitsu from Japan before it got to Brazil. So it's the OG version. And he really liked it. He did that in judo. With master judokas. And let me see the guy's name. His name was Yoshigu Yamashita. He was the guy that rolled with Teddy Roosevelt, and he was impressed. Roosevelt was like, damn, this shit is badass. And he saw it as a threat because Japan was rising at the time. It was industrializing. It was leaving that feudalistic era. So he was like, hold up. Like, this is actually cool and scary at the same time because damn, what if we go to war against them and they have better hands than us? He's like, that's not good. So he actually advocated to some of his military aides, we should be teaching jiu-jitsu to our soldiers because this is a really effective fighting technique, fighting style. And I found it interesting that he was able to give other cultures their flowers on the effectiveness. So, yeah. Back to the jiu-jitsu, though. From what I understood, it got to Brazil from the Japanese as well. There was a big Japanese diaspora out that way. So, yeah, that's how... actually, my favorite submission, the Kimura, was actually named after one of the Japanese practitioners that sparred with Helio Gracie. Helio Gracie is like the OG of jiu-jitsu. He's like the founding father. Him and his family. But... yeah, Kimura hit that submission on Helio Gracie. I would like to do a podcast on the origins of jiu-jitsu. I gotta do more research on that though. And it's a niche topic, so yeah, that's that one would be a little tough. But what I was getting at, yeah, Teddy Roosevelt, badass. And what I wanted to shed light about, the story that I thought was crazy was he got shot while he was running for president, and instead of like going to the hospital and complaining about getting shot, which is a valid fucking complaint, this guy gave a speech after getting shot. He gave a 50-minute speech after getting shot in the chest. That's gangster. I don't know about you, but I'm like, that's tough. So the story goes like this. It was October 14th, 1912, and he was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And one of his supporters was a restaurant owner, and he decided to host a dinner for potential donors or supporters of his. And he was getting into the car, ready to leave, and he acknowledged the crowd. So, like, one last time before he left, and then that's when the assassin came and just BAM! Shot him in the chest. Luckily for him though, he has glasses, so he had like a glasses case, and back then a lot of the glasses case were made out of metal and his was made out of steel. So he had a steel glasses case and he had a 50-page speech that was folded. So that definitely stopped the bullet. Unfortunately, it did penetrate his body, but it didn't go as deep as it should have, considering the distance, because of the steel glasses case and the paper. That literally saved his life. And when he got shot, the crowd rushed the assassin, and they were having a potluck of ass whooping on him. They were they were about to lynch him till Teddy Roosevelt told them to stop, and they realized he was okay, and he was just like, bring him to me, like, I want to see his face. And then sure enough, they bring the assassin, the would-be assassin, to Roosevelt, and he just looked him in the eyes. He's like, what you do it for? And the guy wasn't answering, and he's like, forget about it, this is no use. He's like, just take him to the police. he wanted to see the guy, ask him why he shot him, and like basically see if he recognized the guy, and he didn't. The assassin's crazy. The assassin was a crazy person. He actually got sent to an insane asylum. So the story goes like this. Apparently, he had a dream where the previous President McKinley came to him, and he told him to avenge him. And he was pointing at a picture of Teddy Roosevelt, which is weird. I mean, we would just classify that as a schizophrenic these days. But yeah, he was put in a sane asylum for life, which is valid. They probably should have just killed him. The world would have been a better place without that guy. But yeah, he was acknowledging the crowd. He got shot, and then he tipped his hat to the crowd, letting them know, like, I'm good. And the crowd was just like just roaring. I like to imagine they were just fucking ecstatic. And the crazy part is, after getting shot, this motherfucker gave a 50-minute speech with a bullet in his chest. Crazy. This guy was crazy. You know, Trump gets grazed and then like he gets rushed out the stage. Teddy Roosevelt was like, hold my glasses. And then he just gives a 50-minute speech, which is crazy. And then before he started the speech, he was like, you know, you need more than a bullet to take down a bull moose. So he started a whole different political party called the Bull Moose Party. And like I said, he was a badass. So he carried himself like a really masculine, macho guy. So, yeah, I thought that was gangster. Like, you literally got shot in the chest and you give a 50-minute speech. That's going to be longer than this podcast. I can't even imagine that. Damn. It goes to show how... That's a whole different convo. But, yeah, we're a lot dumber now. Just because technology has allowed us to turn our brain off a little bit. But, yeah, he gave a 50-minute speech. I don't think people nowadays have the attention span to sit down for a 50-minute speech. We're getting dumber and dumber, especially with TikTok and all these things. Like, you're only used to seeing things for so long before you get distracted. And then the last story I want to bring up, just to be equitable and show the women some love, because I brought up two men. I'm gonna bring up Nakano Takeko. She was a female warrior in the 1800s in Japan, and her story was crazy. So she fought in the Japanese Civil War, also known as the Boshin War, in the 1800s. And what's crazy is the way she went out. She was 21 when she died. She was very young, didn't have kids. She was a warrior. And I like how she went out, because that's some gangster ass shit what she did. So she defied orders to stay off the battlefield, and she led her women warriors to the front where the battle is. And they were rushing a strong point of the enemy. And then when the enemy realized that they were women coming towards them, they were given orders not to fire at them because they're women. And then they eventually got close enough, and they started killing some of the men, and then the men started firing on the women. Eventually fucked them up, and Nakano got a shot to the chest, a fatal wound. So this is the part that I'm like, damn, she's a fucking gangster. She knew she was gonna die, and she knew there was no point of her homegirls trying to save her. She was like, save yourselves, because then that's just gonna endanger them. But she had one request from her sister. She was like, I want you to cut my head off. I was like, in order to deny the enemy the satisfaction of mutilating her body and taking her head as a trophy. So she was like, cut my head off. Like, I'm not going to give them that satisfaction of cutting my head off and keeping my head as a trophy. And her sister agreed. And with the help of another woman warrior, they decapitated her. And they took her head back to their family temple along with her weapon. And yeah, she she was gangster for that. Literally, like, you're gonna die. You died doing what you wanted to do, which is rush the enemy. And just as a fu to the enemy, you're like, I'm not even gonna let you take my head. My sister's gonna take my head. And yeah, that in my opinion was some gangster shit. Yeah, so those are just the 3 stories that I wanted to bring up. Like I said, this one was a shorter pod. I'll try and go into detail with Julius Caesar and definitely Teddy Roosevelt. I don't think Nakano will get her whole story. She was only 21. She didn't do too much in her life. Other than that, badass moment, how she went out. So she probably won't get her own episode, but definitely Teddy Roosevelt and Julius Caesar will get their own episodes down the line. But that'll be later. So until then, I'm going to catch you guys later.